Hey folks, Leo here with some important information for potential Class B RV purchasers. And this information is specifically about wastewater systems and the difference between a cassette toilet and a black water toilet, and why it's very important for you to know the difference. It's so important that it could really be a deciding factor about whether or not you feel that you bought the right RV. You know, if you do a DIY van conversion, you're going to choose every component that goes in there. And so when it comes to the type of toilet to install, you will do the research ahead of time and purchase what you want, and you have quite a few choices. If you go to an RV dealership and buy a brand new RV from a manufacturer, you will get one of two kinds of toilet system in that RV. You're either going to get a cassette toilet or a black tank toilet, if it has a bathroom at all. Now, the type you get depends on the make, model, and layout of that particular RV. You don't get to choose. You have to know what's included with that product line. The smaller independent shops can customize your order, but the big manufacturers won't. Okay, the main differences between these two systems are installation, capacity, dumping procedure, and long-term maintenance. RV manufacturers like these cassette toilets because they're easier and cheaper to install. They don't have to install a drain pipe or a black tank. For capacity and dumping procedure, the black tank wins hands down. A cassette toilet has a capacity of about 5 gallons. The black tank has a capacity of about 15 gallons in a Class B RV. As you can see, if you use them the same amount, you're going to have to dump that cassette toilet 3 times as often as the black tank. When it comes to dumping the black tank, it's pretty straightforward. You pull up to an RV dump station, you hook up your sewer hose, put it in the hole in the ground, pull 2 levers, let the stuff go down, rinse out your hose, put some treatment in your tanks, and you're gone. It usually takes about 15 minutes. And you're done with everything in one operation. If you have a cassette toilet, you're still probably going to have a gray tank in your RV because you have plumbing, you have a sink and possibly a shower, and so you're still going to have the operation of dumping your gray tank, but now you're also going to have the second operation of dumping your cassette toilet. And the cassette toilet's going to need to be dumped more often than the gray tank typically. One thing about a cassette toilet that is kind of unfortunate is the name, because cassette is a nice friendly sounding word that isn't very descriptive. It makes you think of a cassette tape. But really, a more descriptive term, more accurately descriptive term, would be a suitcase toilet, because that's what the cassette really is like. It's about the size and shape of a carry-on luggage suitcase that you take through the airport. It's got little wheels on it. It's got an extending handle, and there typically is a door opening in the side of the van that you open up and pull the cassette out and take that with you where you're going to dump it. Now, any kind of toilet system that you get, be it a composting toilet, whatever it is, the dumping procedure is not going to be very pleasant. But some are more unpleasant than others. Now, I'm not saying that no one should get an RV that has a cassette toilet in it. What I'm saying is that you should know the difference before you make your purchase. You could be very unhappy with your purchase, and that's a very expensive thing to change around, because all you can do is sell it and buy another one. Because of the nature of these toilet systems and how integrated they are into the van, it's almost impossible to change them after the fact. Now, we have never had a problem with our black tank getting full, and that's because the gray tank gets full first. Takes quite a bit of water, even if you're conserving, just washing dishes and things that you're preparing food and washing hands and things. So people will say that a cassette toilet is way more convenient because you don't have to go to a dump station. You can dump it anywhere. Well, if you want to take 5 gallons of raw sewage and dump it in your bathroom in your house, that's fine. But what about when you take it into public restrooms and campgrounds and dump it and possibly slosh it all over the place, or a bunch of other people do it? I would prefer that people use the dump stations. Okay, now what happens when somebody buys an RV not understanding the difference between a cassette toilet and a black tank toilet, and then they learn the ins and outs of dumping that cassette toilet? This is documented in many videos on YouTube. People have self-documented that they disliked the procedure of dumping the cassette toilet so much that they decided that they would only use the cassette toilet for emergencies. They would always try to use public toilets whenever possible, or sometimes they said, we decided we were only going to use it for number ones, never for number twos. And my question to you is, why would you want to spend, $150,000 or such on a tiny home on wheels that you have a bathroom that you can't or don't want to use? That doesn't make much sense. So that's why it's so important that you understand the difference between a cassette toilet and a black tank toilet. Now, some people are going to say that dump stations are hard to find and expensive. We haven't found that to be true. If you camp at state campgrounds and RV parks, they're invariably going to have a free dump station that doesn't cost you anything other than your camping fee. In state parks, they usually have a pull-out area where the dump station is, and it's not monitored. So you technically would not even have to camp there. You could just pull in, dump your tanks, and leave. We've only had to actually pay for a dump station a couple of times, and have found that we have a municipal dump station 4 miles from our house, and it costs $5. So where do cassette toilets come from, and why do they exist, and why are our RV manufacturers selling so many RVs with cassette toilets? Class B RVs, I would say. Class B RVs were developed in Europe first. They have a different kind of RV dumping infrastructure over there. They're set up for cassette toilets. In Europe, the roads are smaller, villages are smaller, everything's closer together, and they typically have smaller vehicles, and so they needed smaller RVs. In this country, our camping infrastructure grew up around bigger trailers, fifth-wheel trailers, Class A and Class C RVs, great big things. And typically they had black water tanks, and we have an infrastructure for dumping those. We don't have the same kind of infrastructure that they have in Europe, and we don't have places that are made for dumping those cassette toilets. Now, most people who do DIY van conversions do not go through the expense of installing a black tank toilet system. They tend to go with the newer composting, separating type toilets, or some people do choose to use a standalone kind of cassette toilet. But they're not generally going to install these through-the-wall type cassette toilets that the manufacturers use. The kind of cassette toilets that have a port through the wall are inherently difficult to change to anything else. That's because there's a big hole through the wall of the actual bathroom unit, and there's a big cavity underneath the toilet to accommodate that cassette tank. You technically could remove the cassette toilet, but you would have to do really extensive repairs to the bathroom before you could place any kind of other toilet in that bathroom. So my final advice is buyer beware. Know what you're getting into before you make your purchase. Okay, now there's going to be a lot of people who disagree about this. So feel free to leave a comment and state your opinion. And if you found this information useful, hit that like button. That's my public service message. So thank you all. Bye-bye.